Hello everyone, and welcome to our new TV program, To and Fro with the Merrimack Historical Society. My name is John Listoka, and I'm the new president of the society. And I got to tell you, we are so excited to bring this TV program to you and tell the history of Merrimack one story at a time. And maybe it'll be your story. So there are three of us here tonight, and we're each going to introduce ourselves. And I'll start out with myself. I am a native of Merrimack, but I'm not a native of Merrimack. My connection with the town of Merrimack is through my grandparents. Their names are Clemens and Bronya Listoka, or they took an alias Lester, and they migrated from Poland and Lithuania in 1910. They eventually ended up buying a home on Leicester Road in Merrimack, and it was the home of Samuel Fuller, of Fuller Mill Road and the Fuller Mill that is on the Sauhegan River out behind our farm. So I'm just going to tell you that I had a great childhood. I grew up in Hudson. I graduated in 1961, and of course, I'm thinking that's the best year ever to graduate, but everyone else thinks the same thing. So I graduated, and I went to work for my dad, moving houses, for 2 or 3 years. Then I actually got a job with New England Telephone, and that started my 50-year career in telecommunications. So a lot of you may already know it's New England Telephone, NYNEX, Bell Atlantic, Verizon, Consolidated, Fairpoint, and it goes on and on. But it was a great career, and I retired in 2014. So when I retired, I'm in active retirement. On our family farm off Amherst Road, I actually am the owner and operator of Maplegate Farm and Vineyard. It's a really fun retirement. And I've been active in the community for quite a few years. I started out as being a council member at UNH Cooperative Extension for Hillsborough County, and I represented Merrimack in agriculture for the university system. I think it's really important for all of you to know the importance of history. And we have a new group together, and we're hoping to explain to you in this interview just exactly who the Merrimack Historical Society is today, what it was, what it is, and what's its future. So I think I'm just going to hand this over to the new vice president, Chuck Mower. And Chuck.
Well, thank you, John. Yeah, my name's Chuck Mower. An awful lot of people in town know me, but I don't know an awful lot of people in town because it's a big town now. My folks came here in 1932. My father was a radio engineer, and he opened up WFEA. And as they say, the rest is history. But I'd like to take an opportunity to tell you a short story, because it's not about whether you're born in Merrimack or not, or how long you've lived here. We want everybody to participate in our historical society because we see it as a story about yesterday, a story about today, and a story about tomorrow. So when my mother was here a few years, and she was very active in the community, she ran into one old timer, and she said, well, you know, I think I've been here long enough, you probably ought to call me a native. And he said, oh, by the jeepers, he says, you ain't no native. He says, you weren't born here. She said, well, okay, but all my kids were born here, so they're natives. He said, well, just because the cat had her kitten in the oven is no reason to call them muffins, is it? And that's the way a lot of old timers were back in the 40s and the 50s and, well, on into the 60s. And I grew up here. I was part of the village of Reed's Ferry. But of course, you knew every kid in town, and you went to every swimming hole there was, and you saw kids from all over, and you played with kids from all over. And it really was, despite the fact that there were 4 villages, when it came to the kids, it was one town, and we all knew each other. And it was a great place to grow up. And it's still a great place to grow up. And I have kind of eclipsed many of those early years. The town has changed so many different times. And now I live here with my wife. My 4 children are grown and moved away. And I'm participating, trying to make the place I live better. And I encourage everybody to have a sense of place and to join a community effort, because it takes all of us to make a society, and it takes all of us to support a community. Very often we think if we pay our taxes, maybe that's enough, but it's not enough. When I was a kid and things were a little bit smaller and a little more friendly, well, if you were at somebody else's house at lunchtime, you got fed there, wherever it was. And it got to the point where you knew exactly where everybody lived and what their house looked like, because there was a common interest. We still have that common interest today. We may not know what everybody's house looks like, but we have so much more in common than would ever keep us apart from doing the business of our community. And we want everybody to enjoy our society. We're improving it with new technologies and coming into the next century with ideas and membership and participation that we think bodes very well for the town ahead of us, and the vast majority of people who are yet to be here and yet to be born. The importance of our society in particular, usually people say, well, it's so that we don't repeat the mistakes of history. Well, we're human and we do that often enough. But the real value of history and our access to it is to have a profound window into the imagination of man and those that preceded us and what they accomplished, by which we stand on their shoulders. We have so much to do to contribute as people once did in our community. And so that's pretty much it for our Vice President and our President, John Listoka. And I'm more than happy now to introduce one of our volunteers and members at the Society, who is going to be our media host for this lovely TV program called To and Fro. And I'm so pleased to greet Wendy Thomas. Her husband was a former president of the Society, and she's been closely working with us for a number of years now. Welcome aboard, Wendy.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, John, for having me here. This is going to be such a great community effort, and I'm so pleased to be a part of it. For now, though, let's start with some questions about the Historical Society. Things are different there. So, Chuck, the Historical Society has a new home. Tell us about it.
Boy, what a beautiful home it is. When the Society began way back in 1970, we had no idea that it would take us so long to find a home. Someplace where we could really function as part of the community and not just a closed historical society in a small building, which the old schoolhouse number 12 was. And Everybody that has contributed over the years has done a terrific job. But we're living in the 21st century now, and we need new access to information. Younger people recognize that far more easily than some of us older fellows. But access is now the key word. And lo and behold, just as we propose a new way of doing business, along comes an opportunity. Oh my goodness, so many opportunities have come before and have been lost, but this one just popped up without anybody realizing that it was there. The PTA kindergarten left its contract because the schools now have full kindergarten programs. And we were lucky enough to approach the school board, and they agreed that this was a wonderful use for the old number 3 school that the PTA had been occupying all those years. And so we petitioned the board, and everybody thought it was the perfect solution to a problem that's been hanging for all these years about finding a permanent home. So the school board said yes, the administration said yes, and we have now taken occupancy of our new home building. And a pretty unusual building with its own history and its own stories. It's on the site of the original high school in Merrimack. And I know I went to 3rd grade in this particular school. And we have so many people that went to kindergarten there. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want to join our society and come back and see the old stomping grounds from when they were just little kids.
Well, that's terrific. All right, so John, you've moved into this new building. So what's going to happen to the old schoolhouse building and the museum that's in there?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's all going to be good news. The old museum, we call it Schoolhouse Number 12 on 520 Boston Post Road, is going to be just that. It's going to be a one schoolhouse museum, and it'll be open to the public by request, or it can be actually rented out to family groups or meetings or whatever hopefully comes along. But the long-term goal of our society is to put Schoolhouse Number 12 on the New Hampshire Historic Register of Buildings in New Hampshire. It's the previous presidents before me have actually tried to do it, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort. Some of the building that was added after the original school was built is probably going to have to be torn down. So it's going to take a lot of volunteerism, a lot of hard work and raising money, and just hopefully we can get enough interest and put that schoolhouse on a register.
Excellent. That would be very beneficial. All right, so Chuck, in talking with you, you've mentioned enhanced educational opportunities that you want to pursue with the Historical Society and the school system. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, the possibilities are almost infinite. The relationship that we have with the school district now, occupying their building and having fiber optics communication facilities and high-tech computer systems, we can establish what are known as extended learning opportunities. So essentially, we would say to the school district, what students do you have that are interested in pursuing a career in research, library, librarian, yes. who would like to be a librarian? We have projects that perhaps the technology department would like to participate in. The point being is that it gives students an ability to see a real life application of things that they are interested in and get the skills and the exposure to initiatives on the outside that they wouldn't necessarily see in the classroom. So there's a benefit to the society in that they get help with some things, and there's a tremendous benefit to the students. But it goes with all of our technology, video recording, virtually everything that is so common today, but we haven't had access to before. So we're looking forward to a really great partnership with the school district.
So that's wonderful. So you want to work with people in town and link arms with different groups, like the school system, and hopefully volunteers. We'll get lots of volunteers to work.
Well, one of the nice things, Wendy, is that there really isn't any good meeting space in Merrimack, and everybody recognizes that, I think. And so we have now probably the capacity of in the neighborhood of 150 seats. So if we have the technology in place to hold a meeting where we can Zoom in professionals from across the country or across the globe for that matter, or just local productions in a neutral setting where people can feel comfortable with a small museum and a meeting space, and provide an enjoyable opportunity for their organizations to meet there, which is something that is costly for them in other venues.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so John, you've talked about your technological background. You've got a lot of knowledge up there. So tell us how you're bringing the Historical Society into the 21st century.
What a good question. And my answer is going to please the membership. We're not changing a thing. Everything that we've done in the past, the 3x5 library cards that you go in and hunt for an object or an item, are still going to continue. Anita, our curator, is going to continue doing that. But what we are going to do is we're going to add in digital technology. We wrote a grant for Past Perfect Museum software last year, and we got a matching grant of $500, and we actually bought Past Perfect. It's a very complex software program to use, and we have 3 or 4 members that are very knowledgeable about it. They've worked at other large museums and historical societies. So with Past Perfect and with high-speed internet in at both buildings, and new voice over IP telephones at new buildings, cloud storage, we're going to be able to do video editing, and hopefully we'll have volunteers. And as Chuck mentioned about educational opportunities, we could have students actually interview senior citizens or businesses or whatever it be. It's the world is out there for us to do whatever we want to do. Super opportunities to learn and get skills in history. It's all about history. It's all about saving Merrimack's history. And the most important thing is after we save it, put it on Past Perfect, the community can come in and do research. And they can do research on our computers right there, and then have a curator or someone else, a researcher, assist them and lead them on. So that's really
Quite an effort. It is quite an effort.
It's a big pie in the sky. And just one thing to say on that is I have to talk about volunteers, and I have to talk about the volunteers we have. We're all in retirement, or Yeah, pretty much all of us. And everybody comes with a unique skill set. Chuck Mower is Fritz Weatherby of Merrimack. He's a great storyteller. Our treasurer, Ralph Grintz, he's a graduate of West Point. And he's also a graduate of MIT. It's like, you want to talk to someone interesting. It's, we have so many stories to tell so close. So that's kind of the media answer that I have for you, Wendy.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So, Chuck, you mentioned the meeting room before, but there's a story with the chairs in the meeting room. You want to quickly tell us that?
That was a lot of fun. So we've been looking for anything free. Free is good. And we don't mind starting out with a very humble and eclectic array of stuff in our new building. Over time, we hope that we can acquire the perfect, if you will. But we're not going to let it be the enemy of the good. So I saw on Craigslist where there were 14 chairs that looked pretty nice, and they were free. And they were way up in Deering, New Hampshire. Well, you don't see a lot of chairs. And I think, John, what do you think? There's 14 of these. They look pretty good. John says, grab them. Oh, okay, so I called, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere. Or maybe I've just lived in Merrimack too long. We have so much readily at hand and available to us. So we're driving up there to get them, and the woman calls John on the phone, and she says, where are you? And John says, well, we've just gone past Perkins Pond. Oh, she says, that's wonderful. I was afraid that maybe you weren't going to come. So, no, we're going to come. We want the chairs. Oh, she said, well, would you like a couple more? And so John said, well, sure, yeah, we'd love to have a couple of more. She says, well, we can give you 40. And it was like, yes, oh, yes, this is wonderful. So we go up and we find that it's a ministry that owns like 65 acres of land. And they do good deeds and so forth. And they were getting new chairs, and they had been gifted these, so they wanted to gift them to somebody else, and we were the lucky recipients.
Excellent.
And so, yes, there's a story behind everything.
Everything. That's so true. That's so true. So, all right. So I think we're coming to the end of our show. You want to wrap it up, John?
I would. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and tune in to our new show. Our new show hopefully is going to be how we get the name and why we chose the name of To and Fro, or the Merrimack Historical Society. It's very unique and it's very appropriate. And we're hoping that we can tell the history of Merrimack one story at a time, and we hope you're going to be one of the stories.
Come and join us.
Okay, and of course we want everyone in the community to become involved in the Historical Society, and you can begin by stopping by the new house, which is located at 10 Depot Street. And you can watch this show, and you can share your stories with us. If you do have a story about Merrimack that you'd like to share with us, you can email us at info@merrimackhistory.org, or you can call 603-880-4343. Thanks for joining us today. Be on the lookout for our next episode, where we're going to explain exactly why we chose the name To and Fro for this series. Thanks a bunch, and we'll see you soon.